so long, and now that I'm actually doing it, I'm a little bit scared because I feel like I'm gonna miss out a lot of stuff. I've like written it down, but there's just a lot of like sub points within these points that I've written down that would take me a year and a half to write, which is literally the last time I uploaded a video, but that's not the point. I just feel like I'm gonna miss out a lot of things, and just maybe keep in mind that this man is worse than I am about to reveal. We're gonna start off with fun and light. First of all, this man was the most disgustingly unfunny motherfucker I've ever met in my entire life. I remember this one particular instance where it was me and my two friends in a car, and he came along as well. So it was the four of us in this car, right? And you just had to have fucking been there. But ignore the slash, by the way. I don't, just let me live. Anyway, Mans was cracking jokes left, right, and center, and was not landing a single fucking one. When I tell you he was the only man laughing at these jokes, I mean that shit. Because the rest of us were chucking in a couple giggles every now and then, but it wasn't with him, it was at him. And I just don't really know, I feel like I've blocked out these jokes from my fucking brain. But if you were to meet a 4-year-old child, I feel like he would have the humor and the mental intelligence needed to be intelligently funny and witty and that kind of funny, like cleverly funny. He just didn't have, because a 4-year-old humor. And of course this is like me personally, like your sense of humor is your sense of humor. Like if you think this man is funny, like that's fine. However, I'm going to say a very small percentage of people over the age of 4 would find this man funny. And I'm not necessarily a funny person. Like I am simply annoying and weird, and I categorize those as funny. Like me being funny is just being obnoxious and fucking weird. So when I tell you like this man was not funny, like that should say something to you, you know what I mean? Second of all, he was very obsessed with branding himself as smart. He would call himself that exact word many times throughout our very short relationship. Not very short. We were together for like 6 months. No, we were together for like 6 months. After that, it was a very weird breakup situation. I might get into that later, but it was a very weird breakup situation. But we were like together for 6 months. We knew each other for much longer. Not much longer, but like, you know. And it was like, he was very obsessed with just like trying to convince people that he was smart by saying it instead of like showing people that he was smart. A way that he would do this was by mansplaining the fuck out of everything. When I tell you, this man is the one and only person that I've genuinely had like actually dead ass mansplain something to me, because like I've had many people like mansplain in the sense that like you don't need to over explain. Like I'm not like that dumb. You know what I mean? Like I get what I'm picking up what you're putting down. But when I tell you, this man would mansplain. This was one of the friends that was in the car in that joking situation, she was at my place when he was there, and I was violently depressed during this period of time, obviously, because I was dating him. But like I would like I did this like rather frequently, but I would chuck all my laundry into the wash them, and then just not have the energy to like hang them up, so they would just sit in the fucking washer for ages. The amount of times I just hung up and dried stinky clothes because I just really I didn't have it in me. And this man was just like you know, basically giving me a lecture about how like bacteria like it like multiplies a lot more when it's like damp, because it's a really good condition for them, and it's like, you know, they like water and moisture and stuff. And I also took science in year 10. Like it's really not that deep, and like I can't, again, you had to like I can't explain the vibes, and I can't explain, my social awareness is already like at negatives. I am absolutely incapable of like judging social situations and stuff like that, and like vibes. So in order to like try and explain it to you, it's just not fucking happening. But it was plain and simple mansplaining. This is the perfect example. Like if you were there, you would have like fucking, that was it. And my friend came up to me after he left, and she was like, I never thought mansplaining would piss me off as much as it did, but he just showed me, like something along those lines, like because it was so like, anyway. And he did this many times during our relationship, and I would just let him fucking mansplain, because I like gaff, like, okay, yeah, tell me, like, feel smart, like, it's okay, like, I'm your significant other, I'm gonna, like, let you feel smart about yourself and stuff like that. But, like, looking back, he was just, like, an asshole and was completely self-obsessed and, like, thought he was the smartest motherfucker and most amazing person on the earth. Like, no, he was very average. I'd say he is rather book smart. Getting a little bit more personal, this man had the most insane dirty talk in my life, and I did not know how to respond. But there was this one time, this was the first time I ever did acid, and it was me, him, and like 10 of his friends, right? I knew fuck all people there. I genuinely, before this trip, didn't know a single person there except for him. And we were tripping on acid. First of all, the way this man acted on acid was also just such a massive ick. He was just like, absolutely have fun, but it was like draining for me, and it was just icky because like, why are you, it's kind of giving the vibes of like people like who have a non-alcoholic drink but they don't know it's non-alcoholic, so they start acting drunk, you know what I mean? Like, that was the vibes. Like, why are you acting like you're on fucking MD right now? This is acid. Like, there's no reason for you to be running around the house and like screaming and fucking jumping around. Like, there's absolutely no reason. But like, absolutely have fun, but like, not like, you had to have been there, guys, you don't understand, like I sound like an asshole just judging a man for having fun. But no, it's the first time either of us had actually done acid ever. It was like a low dosage, obviously, as it should be when you're having acid for the first time, otherwise it's not going to be fun. But it was low dosage, and either way, it was still my first time doing acid, so like, you know how, if you've done acid, you'll know. There was this one point where we were both sitting in like we rented out like a massive Airbnb, right? And we went to this Airbnb with me, him, and 10 of his friends. We were sitting on the couch. His other friends were like in the other section of the living room, like it was kind of like the dining area kind of. It was visible. You could see who was where. And Mans basically starts like pressuring me to suck his dick. And like, again, I'm on acid. I don't know what the fuck is happening. Like, maybe he like already asked his friend, like he was this like a genuinely like interest of his, like a kink or like or whatever the fuck that he like wanted me to do or something. I genuinely thought, I was like, maybe he like genuinely wants me to do, like, I'm not like, this is still something that I have in me today, but like if I'm not necessarily particularly like sexually interested in the thing, I'm not gonna like completely like disregard it. Like, I'll try it out, like I don't care. So when this man was like do it, like suck my dick in front of my fucking 10 friends who you've never met in your entire life, I was like, maybe like he's being dead ass, like he's checked in with all of them, this is like fine. Thank fuck I didn't do it. Like, something was off to me. Thank God I didn't do it. Looking back and knowing like the characters of like his friends and like who they are and stuff, like, again, I'm obviously not very like close with them, but like it takes 2 seconds to like think about this. He absolutely, like, they would have been off their like, what the fuck? The second like sex dirty talk thing, this might speak to how incredibly problematically normalized it is, but I'm perfectly fine with a daddy here and there. Like, I like love, cute, slay. But when I tell you the actual like phrases this man would say were genuinely like ridiculously off the wall and like incestuous, it was insane. And what also was insane was the fact that I didn't say a fuck thing back then either. So I met this guy. I think we were like 5 years apart. I'm not entirely sure. It wasn't illegal in where I live, but it is illegal in some places. But I was 16, I think, when we started like talking. By the time we started like officially going out, I don't know if I was 16 or 17, but it was one of those two ages. And this man also had a stable like career and like jobs going for himself. When I first met him, he was just a PT, and I think he might have been in school as well, but by the time our relationship like fully progressed and like was serious, I don't really know. He was still doing PT work that was a minimum of $60 an hour. He also had like some sort of like development job, something where you have to like code stuff and like be on the computer. I don't really know. And again, he was 5 years older than me. He's obviously got his career started. He had like very stable income. He was living with his parents, paying fuck all rent. His car was his mum's car. I was, again, freshly 17. So tell me why we went 50-50 on dates. I had freshly moved out. I was paying like rent and I was working 2 minimum wage jobs to try and support myself. And you are a grown-ass man with a stable income and stable career, and you are making me pay for our dates. And not only that, not only the fact that I obviously wasn't in a position where I could really foot that amount of money regularly in a relationship, but like, if you want a submissive woman, which he very much did, to a certain extent, I'll get into it. Why the fuck are you still going 50-50? Why the fuck are you still like splitting, not even bills? I was paying 100% of those because I was the only one that had moved out. Like, fun money, like, it's insane. He was broke, kind of, because he was putting, the number that I remember him giving me was like 80% of his income into cryptocurrencies, which is not my fucking fault. You can obviously afford a significant other. I obviously was looking for a significant other that could pay for me, because I'm getting into it in a few seconds, but like, you're gonna come over to my house and use all my expenses there, you can pay for our fucking dates. But if you're putting so much money into fucking crypto that you can't afford a significant other, don't fucking have one. And this crypto thing also goes back to like the weird age gap, because obviously, again, like, the age gap we had wasn't illegal. I think when the age gap is noticeable but not illegal, you have to kind of be able to like tell whether or not it's weird. And I feel like if a lot of the times when you're in the relationship you're not going to be able to tell, I think a massive point, and the only really point that I can like, you know, just objectively like give to you as advice, if he has to justify any of your behaviors or thoughts or opinions with your age, leave. Literally run away. He was having a conversation with his friend about crypto. And, oh, by the way, he was lying about my age to all his friends, right? He said that I was 18 to all of his friends. He was like, to his friend who was also investing in crypto, they started to talk about crypto, and he was like, oh yeah, like, she, as in me, thinks it's like cringe or gross or whatever because she's just a teenage girl. Right. Or like an 18-year-old girl or whatever. Date somebody your own age, the fuck? Now, circling back to, like, me being the one who had moved out and was paying rent and expenses and, like, utilities and shit, and me being, again, the younger one by, like, 5 years to my memory, tell me why this man... Oh, that was another thing about the weird dirty talk. He was very obsessed with the fact that I was so much younger than him. Not, like, so much, even. Like, 5 years isn't a lot, but, like, anyway, regardless. And there was this one time where, like, he convinced himself that he was 6 years older than me, because there was, you know, like, a little gap where his birthday is before mine. So, therefore, in that thing, he would be this age and I would be 6 years younger. And therefore, he was 6 years older than me. He was literally, like, a month older than me, like, after the 5 years. And then he used that 6-year thing as, like, dirty anyway. So, this man, again, this grown-ass motherfucking man who wanted me to split the bill with him on dates and shit, he would come over to my house. We would have sex. He would call me gross. That I'm going to expand on very soon. He would call me gross, he would eat my food, he would use my shower, and he would fuck off. Again, like, you can't have, like, a submissive little housewife vibes when you're literally leeching off me. Be so incredibly for real. And with the gross thing, that leads into my next point, which is mental health. Now, there are parts that I didn't write, and I'm just gonna hope and pray that I remember as I'm talking about it. But again, I was very, very depressed in this little era. And I would not shower regularly. And side note, nobody ever fucking talks about this, but the habits that you build when you're severely depressed, they don't go away once you get better. Like, they don't just, like, switch off. Like, still to this day, I struggle with showering regularly. Obviously, I'm a lot better with it now, but, like, getting better didn't mean that I automatically showered. Anyway, that's not really relevant to this topic. I would not shower regularly. Again, the thing with my clothes, I would leave them in and they would be stinky. My room was a fucking mess all the time. I left food in my room all the time. And the fact that I left food in my room and I wasn't the flatmate that managed to get maggots in the rug, that was really fucking interesting. That's another story for another time. I do really want to tell that story. He branded himself as, like, this mental health advocate, and he would blame, not, like, explain, genuinely excuse all of his shitty actions with the fact that he was mentally ill or that he had shitty mental health. But as soon as anyone depicts just the most baseline normal fucking symptoms of having mental health issues or mental illness, like, it was, again, I didn't shower. That is such a normal thing for depressed people not to do. But he would call me, and I called him out on this. I was like, all you do, I said those exact words. I was like, all you do is you come over, we have sex, you call me gross, you eat my food, you shower, and then you leave. And he was like, you literally don't shower. Aren't you literally a mental health advocate? Isn't your entire personality based on how you can do literally anything and everything because you're depressed and you have mental illness, mental health issues, and therefore nothing you do that is shitty can be held against you? And not only that, he used literally everyone in his life as a fucking free DIY therapist. And I was trying to explain to him so many goddamn times, because the way he would just, like, spring shit up is actually, like, balls to the wall insane. And I understand, like, people who are not doing well mentally, like, they need people, and obviously your friends and your significant other are supposed to be these people. But when you are every day, constantly, like, multiple times a day, texting them like, oh, I want to fucking rip my skin off, I want to do that, not everyone is in the headspace to be able to deal with that. Not everyone is, like, has enough free time to be able to deal with that. Especially since, like, like, I'm not in a good place mentally, and then you make fun of me for being fucking gross because I'm depressed. and then you use me as a fucking free therapist 24/7. Even your actual therapist isn't. That's another thing. He had an actual therapist, and he just wouldn't go to it. He would ghost his therapist and then use all of his friends. And then I told him, I was like, you can't rely on people like this. Like, just because, you know, somebody is your friend or somebody is a close person who cares about you does not mean that they are available, first of all, to help you out whenever, like, time-wise, and also that they have the mental capacity in order to do that, fuck. And he was like, yeah, I know, but, and then he was just like, he didn't give a fuck. He didn't, like, that nobody else fucking mattered to him. Nobody else existed to him. That was just how selfish he was as a person. When I say that he wasn't actively getting better, but was still managing to use everyone around him as a therapist, that's fuck shit. Like, he would do so many, like, shitty things, and then just, like, this man would genuinely, like, blow up my phone and start, like, yelling and just, like, being mad at me. He knew I worked hella hours. He knew this. He knew I was a broke 17-year-old. He knew that not only was I broke 17-year-old, but I was a broke depressed 17-year-old. And he would blow up my phone whenever I didn't answer him. Even if he knew I was at work. Even if he, like, genuinely, if I told him, like, I'm going to be at work during this day at this time. Didn't give a fuck. Would blow up my phone. On multiple occasions, he would invite himself over. And when he would try to invite himself over, but I was like, no. I'm at work, don't do that. Fucking tantrum. Fucking throwing a fit. He was also one of those guys who would say that, like, everyone leaves him and that kind of shit, but not even in that way. He would go a step further and say everyone betrays him. His entire previous friend group betrayed him, right? Would never get into specifics. He would just say they were mean to him, they betrayed him, that kind of shit. Would never get into specifics. And I was like, at the start, I was like, sure, like, you don't want to talk about it, that's fine. But the more it went on, like, the less I believed him. Because what do you mean every single person turns on you? What do you mean every single person and every single friend that you've ever had betrays you? Who is the common denominator there? And that was a very specific pattern of behavior where he would, you know, say that shit had happened to him and then not expand on it. And I'm not saying he has to. I'm just saying, if you're gonna come to me for advice and, like, you know, get mad, like, okay, I'm your free therapist apparently, right? And you're gonna get mad at me for not responding appropriately. I need to know the details. Like, I don't know what the fuck. You can't just be like, oh, this person betrayed me. Like, I fucking hate them, but also I love and miss them and all this shit. Like, I don't know how to respond if you're not gonna tell me what happened. If you just say, they betrayed me, like, okay, sorry, like, damn, that sucks. The fuck? Life moves on, like, and it just seemed like literally every single person in his life was in the wrong except for him. And that's another thing, like, every time I would try to, like, just talk about shit that's happened in my life, it would no longer be about me. It would, okay, like, let's say I said, like, hey, this thing happened to me and, like, it kind of fucked me up. He'd be like, oh yeah, I can relate to that because, like, I understand how you feel because this happened to me, and then just start talking about his shit. And the thing would be, like, very loosely related. He was just obsessed with talking about himself and his own struggles, and I don't know how many of those struggles were real. Particularly with all his friends betraying him, I feel like obviously that is a very skewed, like, the world revolves around me, like, I could do no wrong kind of perspective, but hey, what do I know? This man was also just straight up misogynistic, but he did it in a very interesting way, and I find after I met this man, a lot of men are like this, and what the fuck? But he would pretend to be all about feminism and shit like that, and, like, be for women and pro women and all that shit. But in reality, first of all, he liked to play cards with, you know, like, more alternative or, like, people who are aware of, like, social issues and stuff by pretending to be, like, for, like, leftism and shit like that. What he meant by for, like, you know, left-leaning just meant I want to be able to do fuck all that work and still get paid hella. That's all he meant. He was literally trading crypto so obsessively because he said he wanted to retire by 35. That's not a leftist mindset. Remember, I was, like, complaining to him about this girl at work once, saying that she genuinely just didn't do anything, and he thought that was a slay. Like, yeah, absolutely, do not overwork yourself for a company that doesn't care about you at the end of the day. If your workplace literally just sees you as another employee that can maximize their profits, don't overwork yourself. Like, truly do not. Like, do what you are paid to do. If you're being paid minimum wage, put in minimum effort. However, you're working with other people who are also being paid minimum wage. Obviously, you don't want to do shit here. It's a shit job and you're being paid fuck all. But also, and he thought that was literally such a slay because that's what he does, right? Like, just work as little as fucking possible, even if you are being paid well, even if it is something that you supposedly enjoy, even if it helps the people around you, right? If you're doing literally nothing and we're already understaffed, you're fucking over literally everyone else. Now, getting back onto the topic of, like, misogyny, I brought up open relationships with him. He basically said that the only people who were interested in having open relationships were horny old, like, Reddit men and 17-year-old girls. What an interesting thing to do, just because you don't agree with it. Alright, Jesus, it's very fucking right-winged of you to just fucking hate on everyone who doesn't fucking agree with what you think and believe in, Jesus. Even if it has no fucking impact on anyone else around you and isn't like a human rights issue. He also brought up the topic of male birth control. This was after they did like a trial for male birth control, and he was like, that's so fucked up, like look at all these like side effects and all that. And I was like, that's the same with female birth control. And he was like, okay, yeah, but like, dude, this is so fucked, like, no. He wanted to say, now that is happening to men, is basically what he wanted to say. And I was like, I'm literally on birth control because of you. And he's like, no, but like, you got birth control before we like properly did anything. No, I got birth control because you don't like condoms, and the one time something did happen and you weren't wearing a condom and you said, oh, I should probably get you plan B afterwards, you never fucking did it. Right? So obviously I'm gonna get birth control. It's just very interesting. If you're gonna talk about how fucked up birth control is and hormonal, like fucking up somebody's hormones, your only concern is male birth control after a trial period where they still have time to fix things, and also it wasn't even as bad. He also had a habit of exposing people that he was literally friends with when it benefited him. There was this one guy that he would talk absolutely, he wasn't like super duper close friends with him, but he would talk wonders about. He said that he was just like really good at his job essentially. I don't really know, but he was just like a good cunt. After I had like hung out with him like one-on-one, he basically told me that this guy has had like women in his class like claim that he is just like weird, like creepy in a way, like that he would like kind of like sexually harass people, but I don't think he said those exact words, but like that was the vibe, that was what he was hinting at. Very interesting how you were literally obsessed with this man, and then as soon as like I like hang out with him and you get insecure about it, like he is a fucking creep. Very interesting. There was also this one guy who, after we had broken up but was still kind of talking, I hooked up with one of his friends, and then he tells me that this friend would say crazy shit about women behind their backs and just sexualize the shit out of women, calling the kettle black or whatever the fuck, like. But also it's just very interesting that you would say that, like, after I hooked up with this friend, and then apparently this friend is really fucking gross and said all the shit about women in his personal life, like. Why were you friends with him? Like, because this second person, he was like genuinely friends with. This was part of like the group of 10 at that like Airbnb that we rented out where we did acid. Like, this is insane. Like, you can't just like be friend. Like, hello? What the fuck is wrong with you? There was also at one point where he called me ugly at the gym, essentially. He didn't say that, he didn't use that word, but he, throughout our entire gym session, would be pointing out what he didn't like about how I looked that day. Whether it was like the fact that I put my hair up in a certain way, because I had like relatively short hair. I think I still had like these sides shaved at this point, and it was just like a really weird situation, like pulling it up so that I could like work out properly. Also, my outfit is a gym, like I'm throwing out fucking a shirt and like basketball shorts. Like I'm at the gym. Like, this is not runway. I'm not a fucking Barbie doll. You can't just dress me up. I'm not like, I'm a human being, and I'm going to the gym, which you wanted me to do. Like, you suggested this is a thing for us to do. Why are you... What a weird thing to do. Anyway, circling back to the friend that I hooked up with after we broke up, right? The reason he found out was because it's actually this exact book that I'm using to write my notes in. I would basically plan out my week and my day, and I would use this book as a planner, right? In the planner, let me fucking flip to the page to see if I can still find it, actually. I found it. So this was something, and then this was something, and then this was the guy that I hooked up with, right? I think this is 6. And I said to shave and to clean before they came over. That's what he saw, right? And I don't know if you can tell how small the writing is, but like, it's not massive writing. The book was open on that page, but it was not in my room. It was in my flatmate's room because I was super close to my flatmate. I still am. This flatmate of mine very quickly became essentially my best friend. And this book was open on this page, but it was under his bed in his room. And my ex managed to figure out that I was hooking up with his friend via this page on this book. Why is he snooping around my flatmate's room? That's really weird. And after that, he was basically saying like, oh, I'm gonna like fucking fight this guy. He said, I don't know if this is true, if he was just talking shit once again. He said that he kept like a pipe or like a crowbar or something in his car in case he came across this guy like in town or whatever, because it was on site. And I was talking to this friend about it, and he was like, this man can't even fight. Okay, my ex had told me multiple times when we were dating, he could fight because he was like a muscular dude. He was like a bit of a gym rat. Like he was bulky. I 100% believe that he can't fight because like this man's movements just didn't. It wasn't like I believe when people told me that he couldn't fight because it was more than one person. I'm pretty sure. 2 people that knew him told me that he can't fight, and I believe them because I think he did either Muay Thai or like jiu-jitsu or something, and they were like, yeah, this man like looks big. He can't fight though. And so it was just really interesting and really funny. That him lying about being able to fight was literally the funniest thing. Because there were multiple times, like he would try to be like such a fucking god at everything. He thought he was the sexiest person alive. He thought he was the smartest motherfucker alive, even though he was very average. He thought he was the funniest person alive when not a single motherfucker laughed at his jokes. He also thought he was like so incredibly good at sex. And I just want to put this as a PSA out there. Just because you're aggressive, just because you're rough, just because you jackhammer the fuck out of the hole that you're putting your weird little thing in, does not mean that you're good at sex. And I hate to burst your bubble. Maybe think about, is the other person enjoying it? Because this man never made me come once. So yeah, that's all I can remember from the top of my head. There's also a few small stories that I would maybe like to do a video on at some point in the future, but it's more of like, just stories about him rather than like why he's a bad person. So I might do that. And that's it. It's been so long. I don't know how to say bye. What the fuck was that?